Now, I'd like to bring Dr. Bindu Hari into this because you run a school which is really exclusive and in terms of standards and academic proficiency and all of that, and the quality of students and teachers that you have. Do you think an exclusive school could become inclusive?
Well, actually, I think Avneeta introduced me as an owner at some point. Were you referring to me?
Yes, I
Well, I don't see myself as an owner. I see myself as a teacher first.
Okay.
As far as private education is concerned, yes, our view is RTE is here to stay. And I think all private schools can become crucibles of innovation. It's a great opportunity. I think it's a golden period for us. It's here to stay. We can't change it. So we might as well make the most of the situation that we are in and move forward. We did speak about teacher capacity. We spoke about scaling up. Whole range of topics. In fact, which is why I said I don't want to really refer to my PowerPoint. But I'm going to go back to something that someone said earlier. I think there are similarities with the situation that we are in the context of RT and the legislation in the US, the educational legislation, which is called No Child Left Behind. And there are lessons to be learned, which I wouldn't ignore, really, because what has happened over the past decade in America in particular is really, in order to get every child over the bar, there's been a huge dilution of standards. And my biggest concern, even with the current state of education that we have, even with CBSE, I know there's an ex-CBSE, Mr. Bala's here, but there is a dilution as far as English is concerned in terms of knowledge domains. Integrated science represents a huge dilution of standards. And I think that's a very, very big cause for worry for all educators. So there are lessons to be learnt from that. At the same time, when one looks at the British education system, Tony Blair in 2000 went back into literacy and numeracy and research as key drivers in learning, which is something again that we should learn from, not let go of. So there are many lessons that we can learn. But when one looks at private sector, I know there's been a lot of talk about teachers being, the quality of teachers being poor. There's a dearth of teachers and the quality of teachers are very poor. And I think one statistic that came up is about 4% of the teachers in a teacher education course will make good teachers, which is really an abysmal statistic. But the experience in the private sector, at least where I come from, is somewhat different. And I think a large number of teachers are passionate, are creative. And I think there's an opportunity for us to innovate in our schools. But I think the key element is to disseminate those micro innovations that take place in class. So there are systemic improvements that one can do, which is whole school vision, best practice, organizational practice, so on and so forth. But there's also the element of what goes on in the classroom with each teacher, which is so critical. And I think good teachers, and many of them, and 4% to me is, I think there are a lot of good teachers out there. They do innovate in their classrooms. I'd call them micro-innovations related to, say, pedagogy or assessments or classroom management or just motivating a child. The child doesn't want to come into school, low attendance. How are you going to motivate that child? There are different ways to do this, and different teachers have different ideas. Why not collate all of those ideas and put it up on a forum, on a platform that teachers all over the country have access to? So sometimes I really wish that a conference like this, and I know Syed is talking about using technology, starting an educational portal of some sort. Somebody can sift it, put it on, make it accessible to all teachers. And I think that's one way forward. It's a cheap alternative to make teachers, empowered teachers, work very well. There is the enthusiasm out there. And I think they have to be given the opportunity to do so. The other thought that I had related to teachers is this. It's a fact that the majority of our young people go on to become engineers, doctors, lawyers, whatever else, never a teacher. It is true. However, we've moved into an area where we invite teachers back, and they're usually second career teachers. So we have teachers who are, say, 28, 29. They can come from anywhere, investment banking, chartered accountants, it doesn't matter, engineers who've given that up, young women who've burnt out, who went into the BPO sector, hate it, and have decided that's not what they want to do. And we are absorbing them. Yes. We are absorbing young mothers who have their basic degree, but do not want to go back into industry. and they are maybe 32 to 35, something in that age group. And then you have older women, 40 plus, who basically, children are grown up in a way and they don't have anything much to do. Their time is heavy on their hands, and we're absorbing them as well. So the reliance really is on training these women. There are hardly any men. There are no men teachers, are there? Very few of them actually, who are genuinely interested. And all of these ladies come in, I know I've made a very controversial statement there, but however, they really work very well. They're willing learners. And I think at the end of the day, what we need from teachers is that they're lifelong learners.
Yeah.
So they're willing to experiment, they're willing to innovate. They may be second career, they may be third career, it doesn't matter. But as long as they're good communicators, they love children, they love learning, and they're passionate, I think they have an opportunity in any school, anywhere, as long as the school is willing to train them and absorb them.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And I think there are 2 points I'd like to make on what you said. One was about giving a platform to teachers. In fact, the early, on when we were planning for this conclave, we have Dr. Sridhar, Dr. Sujata Ramdurai, who's on the member of the National Innovation Council, and one of the inputs that she gave me was that we are not providing a platform for teachers to exchange or share ideas and chit-chat with each other. Most of the time, if you look at the conferences that happen, it's only maybe the school heads or senior management who attends. Where are we giving a platform or a forum to teachers to exchange ideas? So they're all working in their own silos. So that's something that we need to look at. I mean, I thought that was quite an eye-opener for me, because, I mean, we do think that, we are empowering our teachers, but this, I mean, if we're not giving them an opportunity to express or to share their good practices and their little successes in classrooms, we're limiting their growth. So that's something which I totally agree with you.
Can I add one thing? What you say is very, very critical. But also that sharing is important, professional development is important, but also that as teachers grow, it's a pyramid, and teacher attrition can be low. Salaries are one, but if they're challenged, they certainly will stay with the school. And frequently, when you have master teachers who become trainers, you take them through a Train the Trainer series, so they become mentors or coaches for newer teachers that are coming into the system.
Yes.
I think they feel really good. It's fulfilling, not just from being in the classroom with children, but it's also fulfilling because they're engaged in adult education. And I think that's a big area that one can work with, because there's a dearth of leadership in schools today.
Yeah.
And schools consciously have to make that effort to build the teacher leader, from the ground upwards.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I think earlier through this period I'd shared a slide with you which showed a tsunami, the staffing tsunami that might hit us, because we have old senior experienced teachers retiring and we don't have young teachers coming in. So we may be hit by a tsunami and we may not have enough teachers. So something like this is a way forward, where we have senior teachers stepping into the role of mentors and training new incumbents into the profession. I think that's a brilliant way, and I can totally visualize your schools doing that, because they've always been thinking and they've always been on top of the learning curve as far as good education is concerned. I'd now like to maybe go to Niharika and what Niharika has spoken about. And what interested me was the statement that she says, access is not about giving admission to a student at a certain price. It is about ensuring that somebody will be there to take care of what the child needs for learning. And I think we've been talking about the quality of teachers. But again, let's go back to this problem that we have to provide access because we need to reap the benefits of that demographic dividend. And if we have to provide education to such a large number of children, and we do not, and we also recognize that we have such a shortage of teachers,